Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Battlegrounded with Martin. Today I have a very lucky drop for you, one that I've been sort of excited to do because it's one of my favourite little, artistically speaking, areas of the map. I think it's super cool and interesting to play with as well. It is the swamp, which is, as you would imagine, a big swampy area. So here you can see it from above. I didn't actually realise how far it stretched, but it's an amazing little area. And it is just down from the fields in the western edge of the map. Not too far from Gatka. Last time we wandered around here and went up to here, or the time before that. But here we are in the swamp. So there aren't very many houses down here, and there's not a lot of great loot. So it's unlikely to be too hot of a landing zone. I very rarely come here for loot, and I think that's kind of a shame, but I also think it is one of the coolest areas in the game, just in art direction terms. So first things first, you've got this sort of thigh length, thigh depth water in this area. You've got all these trees which are bare, and it just, there's limited things I can say about it because just look at it. You've got this beautiful open area with enough cover to make it a fascinating area to get into a firefight. When you are sneaking up on these houses, if you think some people are in there, you've got loads of little bits of cover you can duck in between, and it feels cinematic in a way that I think is really striking. This is one of those areas, you spend a lot of time in this game fighting in open cornfields, and that's really cool, that's iconic. Also crawling through open cornfields. But an area like this where you're forced to crawl, you can't go prone in this area, obviously, because you would drown. And you're forced to go fairly slowly in some areas. Where it gets a little deeper, then you can't run, you can just sort of wade. There's lots of little shacks around in the area. It feels open and flat. I've spoken in the past about how there's lots of little hillocks in this game. Obviously there's one there, and there's a big hill up there, which again I'll get to in just a moment. But if you are in this area in a firefight, then it's actually the flattest the ground gets, really. Generally speaking, there's not a lot of big open flat ground like this, especially not an area as open and bright. Ooh, if I go down, it's underwater for you. As bright as this. Most areas this open. The only other one that really springs to mind is one of the plateaus, which is a big open sort of grassy area, and even then you've got lots of grass and stuff you can go prone in and sort of duck and hide. Here, if you're in a fight here, there's nowhere to hide, you're in flat ground, you've only got a couple of little rocks for cover, which are imperfect cover. Your back's going to be exposed if you're fighting even from here, and you've got that big hill overseeing you. You're in a bowl, essentially. So anyone cresting over the hills, then you've got a good shot on, but they've also obviously got a good shot on you. It's an amazing area art direction wise, and it's very large. I think it is a shame, although not bad design, that there aren't more houses around here, because there's little motivation really to come here unless you are already being pushed here by the circle. But I also think that's something that makes this area kind of special. When you get a final circle that pushes you through here, it really feels like something, and it's incredible. I just really like this area. Imagine if you get a circle that pushes you here. You've got this little king of the hill area where you do have a little lump that gives you a little bit of cover, shooting out over the open territory. So let's wander over and go up to the observatory. Now, the observatory, the model that it's based in, it is used elsewhere in the map. There's one over here on top of a huge hill by the military base. There is also now one up in Stalba. They recently added some extra buildings, some military grade stuff up there. But this one up here is interesting because the others are all a little way removed from other places. But this one, there's very little around it, but it has incredible line of sight across the swamp. So if there's a fight going on anywhere in the swamp and you're up here, you probably have line of sight of it. Now these radar stations or observatories or whatever you want to call them, they have military grade loot, so which means on the loot table you get really, really good stuff if you come here. And they usually have quite a few spawns. I will often come here if I'm just passing by, because you have good line of sight, you have a very defensible position, and you have, if the circle does you well, then you also have a really good little fortress that you can defend for yourself. You can't get up on the top, interestingly, from inside. You can only get up on the top, and there is a loot spawn up there, by parachuting, so that's interesting. I heard a fight when we were down there earlier. This must be the remains of that. Obviously I'm not going to do any looting, but it's good to see they got a pistol, so they at least had a chance, I suppose. But yeah, I think this building and this asset in particular, it's used across the map, and I think it's a really good one. And just, you know, stand out here on this balcony. You don't have great cover because this is just a standard barred fence, so people can still get quite a good shot on you, although you can also duck inside as and when you get shot at. But look at that sight line. You know, I spoke in the one of the previous videos about Gatka and the sight line up to that big mountain. Again, exact same situation here. You've got the big mountain up in the distance. They can potentially see you if they've got a good enough scope and good eyes, and you can definitely see all the way to them again if you have a good enough scope to do so. Excuse me, losing the ability to words for a moment there. So, if you come over to the cliff here, then you have clear sight over the swamp, as previously explored. You also have little drop-down areas where you can sort of hide. This would be an interesting spot to sort of camp if the circle did you right, where you can't really get hit from below and you're defensible from above. Other than that, it's fairly open and clean. But you have a great sight line out over the rolling fields over here. There's another couple of little houses here, so if you maybe started in the swamp, you could go here and potentially get some better stuff. Yeah, I just love this area. I wish I had slightly more to say about it, but it's just, you know, a thing that I think bugs me in games is a lot of games get praise for, and you know, I don't necessarily go against it, but a lot of games get praise for photorealistic graphics or graphics that approach realism, and certainly this game is shooting for that. It's shooting for a very specific form of realism. It's not shooting for cartoony, it's not giving you the ability to have wild haircuts or glow-in-the-dark guns and things like that, which you get in some games in this genre. I haven't played H1Z1, but I understand it has all sort of stuff to take it away from that if you like realist place and more towards a sort of cartoony, video gamey type of place. This isn't shooting for that, but that I think is often a dead end artistically. I think shooting for pure realism usually leads to worse game design, and it's largely a tool, being very frank, to flog people graphics cards. Oh, you can't see far into the draw distance, well, you better get the latest graphics card in order to ensure you can do that, whereas hyper stylized graphics or people using outmoded graphics styles because, you know, that's what they have access to, and they're small teams and things like that. I think that's far more interesting, even when it sort of fails, even when it's something that doesn't appeal to me personally, even when it, in fact, especially when it looks conventionally ugly. So I think I've talked myself in knots here and made the argument that I actually don't like this area, but that's not true at all. Usually I will vouch for more cartoony styles which communicate better the area. I think this game is the exception that proves the rule, because busy visual design and wildly varied visual design which approaches realism is one of the things that this game is known for, because by approaching realism from a particular angle, obviously it's not completely realistic, it gives you consistently varied and busy and tactically interesting areas to fight in. A lot of games, they would show you an area like this and it'd be great and you charge through it and you shoot people, or you would fight goblins or whatever, but functionally it would be no different fighting in this area to how it would be if you were fighting in a big flat plain with almost nothing in it. Whereas this area's design is visually incredibly striking, but also tactically incredibly interesting, because as I say, it's one of the few flat ground areas in the game where the ground is completely flat in the immediate area. Obviously you've got all the hills and everything, but you know, this particular zone is all flat because it's water. You also can't go prone, so it has literal gameplay consequences to it, and the cover is much more sparse, and also all the trees are... I've got to stop. Every time I go down like that, I'm like, oh, is the game crashing? It's just going underwater. But all the trees being like this means that it is very bright. It's no shadows to hide in. There's very little scrub to hide behind. You can see your enemy at a distance in this area, in the middle distance in this area. You can see them very, very clearly, and that's just really interesting. So I think I've argued myself back round in the circle. I now like this area, and it's my favourite area in any game that's ever been made. That's not true. That's Liberty Island in Deus Ex, and I refuse to justify that. But anyway, that is the swamp. You'll notice, by the way, these three pipes, which share the feature of the Gaka pipes, that if you land at the wrong angle and get out of your car, then you'll wind up inside them, trapped inside, and won't be able to get out. So, that is the swamp. For now, I might return here at some other point to see what's going on. Let's have a little look at the map and see what is nearby. See if there is anything interesting that I would like to show you. How's about I wander over to... let me have a little think. Excuse me, I didn't necessarily expect to survive this long. Let's wander down to the coast. It's a little way, but I think I haven't really shown off the coastline much in these videos yet. So I'm going to hit the auto run button and potter on over there. See where it takes me. And just see what's interesting along the way. I'll take a moment in the middle of the video, since I'm doing some running, to say if you're enjoying these, please subscribe, leave a comment, or hit that like button. I am fully selling out by saying that now, but you know what? I'm enjoying making these videos and I want to share them with more people, and I hope you agree with me on that one. So here we have a couple of little buildings. I like to imagine this is a little shop and a little house next door, just off the road. Perhaps it belongs to one of the farmers. Perhaps it is just a prop that is put here by a video game designer. It can be both. That's the fun thing about video games. Your imagination is as free as a bird. Ah, here we go, a little buggy. That'll do nice for us. Is that a buggy or a car? Cars in this game are great, by the way. I like the way they're all a little bit crap. They don't run that fast. They're cumbersome. These ones in particular have trouble going up hills. They explode very easily. They roll. If they're motorbikes, you fall off them and die. They're all a bit squirrely. I've seen so many complaints about the car physics and physics in general in this game. There goes a plane. A lot of planes on this side of the map. But I think, to return to my point, the squirrely physics on the cars is charming and funny, and I'm going to really miss all the goofy videos that come out as a result of it once they finally eventually fix it. I like that you can boost in them. I like that you can demolish them. I like that you can honk the horn. I just think they're fun. So here we have the coastline. There's not too much to look at along here. There's some rocks over in the distance. I have several times. One of the interesting things about the plane, which goes over and drops care packages, if you didn't know, is it can drop them anywhere within the circle, which includes well out to sea. And I have more than once had the circle, you know, if the circle's too big, then it overlaps the edge of the map. I've had the plane drop care packages outside of bounds of the map, which is very frustrating because you get a boat out there to get it and it's broken and you can't get it. But again, another sort of charming early access thing that I don't mind at all. I feel like I haven't had too much harsh criticism of this game overall. I love all the bugs. I just love bugs in game worlds. I find it more fun. think games are more fun for their bugs. Whoops. Oh, there's someone driving around over there. Let's see where they're going. Whoops, getting some network lag. So, this is one of the bugs I like fewer. Because it means I'm now going to drive into the ocean, probably. Yep, there I go. Oh, no, I'm okay. Oh, hello. So that's one of the joys of playing online, I guess. Sometimes you get a little bit of network lag. This hill's interesting, isn't it? I'm going to drive up it, see what's going on. Have a look out across my domain. Try not to crash into that tree. Okay. Oops. Oh, hey, no, please. Oh. I really did not think they were going to be up there. Oh well. I suppose that's the end of the video. I just wanted to explore the hill a little bit, but you know what? Fair enough. I'd be up here too if I was them. It's a good spot. You've got good sight lines in all directions. So yeah, that's the swamp, and a little drive around in the cars, and a little talk about cars and physics and things breaking. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I said before, please subscribe or hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it, because I'm having fun making these, and I hope you enjoy them too. I will see you next time.